Okay, hi everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear me, although you're back. If you want to come closer, it's up to you. There's no, not obliged to. Well, what I'll do is I mentioned it to, I guess it got bigger, so maybe we'll wait till the end to quiet Q&A. So don't worry about that when whoever just came in. First of all, I'd like just to thank Mindtrek for inviting me all the way from Ireland. Okay, before I start, I've got a quick confession to make. I'm not an expert. I don't have a PhD or a master's degree or a decade's worth of work experience in the technologies that I love. What I am is a nerd. When I find technologies fascinating, I go out of my way to learn everything that there is about it. I read every article that is, research every paper, and believe me, I've watched hours of YouTube on the topics like blockchain and Internet things. And that gave me a lot of knowledge in that ecosystem. With that kind of, with all that information kind of stored in this brain here, questions started to come up in my head. One main question that just kept popping is, how can we make all these technologies work for us, the humans? That question just kept coming to my head most of the time, and I stayed thinking about it, wake up thinking about it. And something interesting happened. I had a dream. Bear with me there for a second. The dream was, I started imagining a country with no cities. Well, not the big ones at least. Funnily enough, Simon Giles was just talking something similar down below earlier. A country with towns, big and small, dotted around all over the place, with all these advanced technologies like blockchain and Internet of Things ecosystems embedded into these towns, with advanced superhighways interconnecting all these towns with, what do you call them, automated cars whizzing through the whole thing. This is just here in my head. So it just started, that led me to a feeling of things need to be changed to steer away from big cities. Just a quick show of hands here. Anyone been to Dublin, the capital of Ireland? Okay, no, actually, it's kind of in between. So, well, not many, which is a good thing, because Ireland has been going through, especially Dublin, has been going through a massive rental crisis. One-bedroom apartment in Dublin is averaging at around 2,000 euros a month. It's just unbelievably crazy. Another thing that's been witnessing is it has the highest worst traffic in the country's history ever this year. I just want to give you a quick scenario here. If 100 families with 4 in each family, so we're talking 2 parents and 2 kids, decided to move to the capital, Dublin. Oh yeah, Dublin has an average of around population of 1.8 million. The population growth difference is so small, it's barely noticeable. It's just 0.2%. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong for anyone who does the math better than I do. And here's another way I'd like to put it. If we take this nice big blue circle here as the population of my capital, Dublin, with 1.8 million, the population growth is that dot right there. Can anyone see it? There it is. So you get what I'm going with this. So it's just so small you won't even notice it. I come from a beautiful town called Carcedine. It's in Kerry. Anyone who's been to Ireland, have you been to Kerry? Oh, fun! Yay. Okay. So Carcedine is a small town with a population of averaging 1,800 as well. Here's where I live, and here's where I used to work. It used to take me roughly around 30 seconds to get to work. Maybe around 3 to 5 minutes if somebody stops me and wants to say hello to me, which happens a lot, by the way. And as a parent, what I love about being in a rural area is I get to enjoy time with the family and have some great, crazy stuff doing with the kids. And the best of all is connect with nature. And let's go back to the 100 families we spoke about. If these 100 families decided to move to a town like mine, with as we said, 1,800 population, I mean, you could imagine the difference in population growth. We're talking about at least, up to almost 30%. 30%, third of the population. So, I mean, definitely, the difference, you'll be able to notice the difference. Here's another blue circles again. With the help of our local government and our a local college not far from the town, we set up a pilot program to roll out specialized technologies to create a better workspace in the town. At the moment, we installed long-range access points throughout the main streets, and we have a marina in the marina as well, and set up also LoRa and types of protocols called LoRa and Sigfox, if anyone knows them, for distributed networks. And here's where it gets interesting. Because of that, international companies, a few international companies, and a university up in Dublin approached us to create the next phase of the pilot program, and where we'll be installing or setting up a smart grid system that will install smart security cameras, smart street lightings, and smart traffic lights. A lot of smart things. So from there, as well as this, we're also building a technology labs that will specifically designed for the likes of Internet of Things and blockchain technologies and ecosystems, and a few more coming up by mid to late next year that will include also virtual reality, 3D printing, and artificial intelligence. All these labs are going to be actually built in the town, catered for, it's open source, so it's catered for all universities that want to utilize them for, whether it's case studies or modules for certain degrees they have. And from the company's point of view is to create a test bed, a place that they could have to test pre-market products into that they could launch in the future. Okay, this is I mentioned it earlier to Phil. This is for urban you can. This is actually short because I wanted to do a lot of interactive Q&As here. So I'm gonna end this with a few questions. Is where I don't know where we're gonna end up with this. We're gonna either have a world where everything still ends up going to the big cities, or you might be able to embrace this new type of lifestyle for a better workforce. And if everyone remembers the question we had earlier in the presentation, just curious right now if any of that changed for now. Thank you. I can see some questions. Yeah, go on. Sure. Yeah, shall we do the mics? Or? Yeah, do them.
Hi, thank you. We met during lunch,
yeah,
so
for
I got some free info from you there. And what was really interesting to me was when you talked about your hometown, you said that you had a lot of services there in that small village.
Yes.
And this is where the situation is pretty different if you compare it to Finland, because in such small places there are not really, or at least not that many restaurants or shops or stuff that you were talking about.
Just to clarify, sorry, is there a question?
No, just wanted to
point out
maybe just a comment that's that I was really happy to hear about those services, and what I was thinking is that how could we do, or maybe we already do something like this in Finland, maybe someone else knows, doing a test bed in a smaller village.
I'm actually going to throw out this to the audience. Does anyone know in Finland, is there any living labs? What that means is like an area which is like almost like a town that's being used as a test bed. Is there anything happening in Finland by chance? Okay, which is quite interesting because again, just to clarify, we were having lunch earlier. So we spoke about how in my hometown, that in general, no matter at any case, in Ireland, towns are almost like they have their own ecosystem. So you go to a town, even with just 1,800 people, you still get, like in my case, they have 2 supermarkets. It's Ireland, so you have around 12 pubs in there. You have 7 restaurants, 3 coffee shops. This is only for that population. And then half an hour away, same thing is happening in another town. So my understanding here is kind of different. I mean, you get a population of 3,000, yet you just have almost houses. Correct me if I'm wrong here. So it's maybe it's taking one step backwards and ask, is there something that can be done on a lifestyle of these towns? Can we change the lifestyle of it to attract something like this to come over? Now, where we were lucky, I say lucky because they came to us, is these universities and these companies, when they came to us, they heard it from another talk we had, and they wanted to create a more substantial ecosystem for testing these projects that we get. When I say projects, like for example, is we have like that smart grid we talked about. It's actually, this picture is from a company called Easy Lumen, and what they do, they have a smart grid system. It's just a box that goes into the street lights, latches onto the street lights, and it it controls the lighting for more efficiency, as well as putting security cameras and all that stuff we mentioned. So yeah, it could be something that you could go that extra step. Can the council? How does it work? Is it more council based over here, or is it like what we have is the whole county or the prefecture is one go. It's not just each town. If you want to go to them and approach them with a project to do in the town, how does it work here? Does anyone know? We have something here.
Yeah, it's just following up. We are different here because the houses are typically far apart from each other. There isn't such a community that you might have in small villages.
Okay.
So the services are there are no. You need to go further away to some mall, shopping mall nearby city, for instance. But this kind of community feeling is not there anymore.
It's gone.
It used to be, but it's not there.
Well, what about the next one, next level up maybe? Like, are they close to bigger towns, like usually, or are they really far away from some sort of a condensed population?
Those villages which are close to bigger towns, they typically are growing, but
Yeah.
then once further away they are.
They're far away.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
some things there's where is it again? Italy, I think. There's a place in Italy. What they did is they created a mesh, if that makes sense, a network of a big area whereby individual houses. So they're all like separate houses. They're farmhouses really. Like they're places. Each house is almost like a kilometer away from the next house. And so what they did is they came together and they became part of a bigger village, if you will, or a town, which I think it had around 20,000 people. And they put in something similar on the test bed area. So they created a place for companies to come and test their services or product before being commercialized. And these houses were given as a service to these companies, to whether to as lodging or as if it's a smart home project, they could utilize their house for the smart home testbed. So it's a mindset. Yeah, it's a change of mindset. They decided they'd come together and would work together, and that's how it started. And then once you have that mindset going through, solutions will come with it. So that's maybe something like that could work here. Would love to. Yes. Any more? Yeah? No? Oh, we have two.
Hi, I'm Hanna Nilsson from Forum Birium Helsinki. We are running a lot of living labs living lab kind of functionalities in Helsinki area and different suburbs on smart Kalasatama area and smart mobility. And I was just wondering to ask your opinion about, because I mean, of course, living labs, the idea is that it can be these public-private people partnerships.
Yes.
But if you are talking about very small villages or areas, do you see any threats or like them becoming just a test bed for commercial services, and how do you balance between this like public interest and private interests and so forth?
The biggest issue I had in our, I hope this answers your question. The biggest issue we had in the town was not understanding the technologies behind what we're doing. So we had to create a massive, well, town level massive awareness of what is blockchain, what is Internet of Things, why are they so important in our life now or for the future. And so I literally invited everyone in town to something like this. We sat down, did something similar, and then we started talking, and it eventually created an awareness, and from there they were more willing to accept a collaboration with commercial entities to come and create these test beds. One more thing on that one is, one of the things we set up is, for example, the long range access points as a paying it, like giving back to the town, we created public access for Wi-Fi, just standard public Wi-Fi. And that kind of helped the community also be more relaxed about the, allowing this happens. And on the point of security as well, there was an issue about, what about, oh, you know, we have all these cameras going to be popping up and all the information. I'm worried about my information. When we explained that, that wasn't my expertise. We had somebody else actually doing the same thing, awareness on how all that will will help all the, like, how can I put it? Not the security issue wasn't an issue anymore once it was explained to the people how everything works. That's how we work. I don't know if this helped your answer. Maybe? No?
I was just wondering, because you emphasized a lot the technology and the need for that for the small towns to flourish. So do you think that in the long run they should make the investment, for example, for the connectivity layer themselves, or is it, do you think this is the way or the funding model in the future also? This is more like an additional question.
Yeah, the funding model, our funding model came from the government, pure and simple. We had the local government fund 50,000 euros to build the first infrastructure, and everything else was voluntary from our side. And with regards to the most basic requirement, which is broadband, fast broadband, it was implemented also by the government as part of the deal. They rolled out fiber optics throughout the town to allow this to happen. And so yeah, that's how it happened from our side. Definitely you need government help, but not to lead it. This is another, I mean, no offense to anyone who works in municipalities and governments here. Very important thing is, if any of you are doing something remotely similar, is not to get the state bodies or governments to lead it. I don't know. So you have to lead it, and then there will be a great support for you, because it will go stale. It happened before with many projects we've done, and just be careful with that. I don't know if it's Finland is similar, but definitely in our country that's what happened. Sorry, you had the question.
Yeah, so I think I missed it. What are you getting at with this? What really makes you happy? So what's the
Well, I asked that question before. First thing is like, what makes you happy? You know, the usual, my things that I like to do sports, I like my car, you know, general stuff. My intention, and then when they saw what I was trying to show there, they realized that there's more to life than just superficial stuff. That's my intention behind this. And because, like in my case, it's my family, my location, like people who are traveling. There was a story I was going to mention, but that's like 10 minutes worth of story, so I didn't want to bombard you with the story. So it's in cities. I mean, okay, here's a quick show of hands. How many of you take at least half an hour to get to work? Yeah, good. So in Dublin, at least an hour and a half for roughly 70 to 80% of the people. So it's a crazy. This is one way, not both ways. So that's an hour and a half back. So they're wasting so much time of their life, and not just that. They're going, if they're a family of a couple with 2 kids. The kids are, let's say, teenagers in secondary school. They all come in different times when they come home. And then what happened is they never see each other. And then they go in the weekends, and maybe they get to talk to each other by then. And this is, the intention behind this is the humanity behind it, not just the technology. Because the technology, everyone can put that. You said it yourself. You could throw all that technology into a test bed or into smart cities. But what do they can actually do to us as people? Would it actually make our life better?
You mentioned blockchains a couple of times.
Yes.
So what kind of services or products do you see that are going to be built on top of that, and what it's going to enable?
Yes. Two projects we're working on at the moment. Can't say much, sorry, but one of them is healthcare, and it's to do with information transfer of senior citizens in real time of their health, while they're just daily lives, you know. So they have systems put into the house, and there's information going to be transferred to a private network, and then that information, and then it's more the security level more so than than anything we're looking into that. And then the other one is it's to do with the smart grid. It's to do with what's the word again? It's like putting like metering systems that with people who are, because we're trying to bring into the town an independent power supply. And then that independent power supply, whether through windmills or the sea that we have, or the ocean in my case, is that when there's excess electricity, can it be redistributed through the town? And that's another project we're working on at the moment. Brilliant. Is that it? Great. Thank you so much. And see you there.